Hi. So the title of my presentation today, Don't Read History, Make It, is stolen directly from a primary resource that many of you may know about. Oh, there it is. So I need to be patient. Let's see what happens. So you can see there, the Navy and Lady Liberty knew the secret. See Lady Liberty in the back there? Kids don't want to be passive receptacles of history. They want to be active participants, and that's still true today. Mark Twain has that quote about I'm going to trip and fall and kill myself, and I'll be good. Mark Twain has that quote about history. It doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And here we see Mike Keefe, the Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist, putting that in action. Here he points out how the East High School students were interested in making history. And you know what? And that's just the kind of thing that we're looking for out of our students. We're looking for students who are going to be active participants, who are going to be the kinds of citizens that go out there and make a difference in people's lives. You know, sometimes when we think about primary resources, and certainly when students think about primary resources, it's kind of like that line from Star Wars, long ago and far away. They don't have to be that way. In fact, primary resources are as fresh as the morning newspaper, as close as your neighbor, the city council member, and as relevant as tomorrow's test. Local issues and local government provide students with opportunities to engage as citizens and to explore current primary resources and to interact with leaders. And perhaps most importantly, they give them a chance to create primary resources themselves. Oh, let me go backwards. So, we use primary resources a lot in social studies, and one way we use it is to support a claim. So let's play a little bit. Let's do one. My claim, the kids are all right, and our community's futures are in good hands. Wow, I like that. And our focus is going to be on local government issues. And the evidence, well, let's see if we can find some primary resources and support our claim. Here's one. There's some evidence that our communities are in good hands and our students are getting engaged. Let's see what else we can find along the same issue of race and justice. Whoop. Let's go back. So, primary resource, some television coverage, and some photos from an online source. Students engaged. And it wasn't just kids in Denver. It was kids across the country and certainly across the state engaging these protests designed to bring awareness about civil rights and about race and justice issues. You know, but they didn't stop there. As you know, a police officer was tragically hurt guarding these student protests. And these students exhibited the full range of civic virtue. They started a fund to help out this injured officer, setting an example for us all. It doesn't stop there. They were also invited not only to point out a problem, but to work on the solution. Invited by the mayor to come and say, what can we do about this? And it doesn't stop there. Maybe the slides stop there. Okay. They continue to work on those problems in lots of different kinds of places, but I'm going to show you a different example now. Let's go way back in time in kid language, go back 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to show you a picture here. And this is a picture from a city council forum that we hosted at Silver Creek High School. I'm going to show you a picture here. There we go. And you notice this is after the forum is over. And would you say these kids are engaged? Yeah, pretty much. So you know what's true about this picture? This is after the bell rang. And they're still standing there like that. And even more impressively, it's after the lunch bell rang, and they're still there. And what's going on here is this gentleman here is accusing this woman of some shady campaign practices, which turned out not to be true. But I suspect the kids are all waiting for a Jerry Springer episode to break out. But they're clearly engaged, nonetheless. All right, let's pick a different issue. How about let's remember that school districts in Colorado are run by elected officials. That's a local government. School boards are local governments. Let's get kids engaged with that. How about the AP issue? Here they were on getting coverage on local TV coverage and some nationwide coverage as well students in Jeffco protesting the assumption that AP history is going to be harmful for them, right? Well, let's look at this other kind of primary source here. This kid's going to end up in the minutes of the Jefferson County School Board meeting, but unfortunately, I don't think his outfit's going to. You know, that's just top of the line there, and that's just good stuff. You know, and they had success. As you probably know, about a week or so ago, the school board kind of dialed it back and said, you know what, we're not going to review the curriculum. We think we're okay with that. So once again, students get engaged, they make a difference. Let's look at another example. How about CMAS and park testing? Everybody go, ooh. All right, so here's a tweet. So that's the new kind of primary source. This is a tweet from Fairview High School, and they were out protesting the, dare I say it, the social studies test. There's a whole bunch of issues there. But you can see it gets picked up by all kinds of people and retweeted, including by Diane Ravitch. And it kind of reminded me of something. What it reminded me of was kind of the classic student protest. You know, Mary Beth Tinker here in the Tinker versus Des Moines case. You know what's totally cool about this? She heard about the Fairview thing, wrote an email to a Fairview student, right? And complimenting her on her involvement with it. And look what the girl says. The girl says, I'm freaking out, I'm fangirling, right? And you know what? I knew exactly what she felt like, because and there's Mary Beth and me with my really cool thought bubbles. Sorry, I'm all geeked out there. All right, so let's look at a different example. Some kids planning a park. Some fourth graders in Longmont got engaged with with local government. First, by creating some posters that were designed to look at the services. Let's keep going. Look at some services provided by local government. The winners of the contest were presented their awards by a city council member. Their parents showed up. Right? Look at the girl. She's just so proud. Right? And here's her work. Isn't that cool? Local government works together. Well, the city returned the favor. The city said, you know what? That park right next to your school, we need to redo that. Maybe we can enlist you guys in working on that park. We got goals and objectives. We got some things we want to do with it. So the city came to the school, and the school got the community involved, parents involved, kids involved, designing things to have on the park. And eventually came back, and look, you see these kids are doing some planning here, and created this park listening to the kids. Fourth graders got a chance to be listened to and respected. Look, there they are, the park planners. Listen to what this fourth grade teacher says about them now. Now I can ask those kids and those parents to do anything, and they believe they can. Kids getting engaged works in all kinds of ways. Let's take another example from, this is a CU grad and a former student teacher of mine, requires everyone in her government class to do a civic action project. Every kid has to pick out something that they'd like to do in the world and act on it in one way or another. Frequently those, there she is. Everybody say hi, Justel. Okay. Well, thank you very much. So one of them, frequently this ends up being letters to the editor, right? And here's a letter to the editor about testing. I got to point out that sometimes the sources are a little unreliable. But there were all kinds of things that they talked about. Light pollution, solar panels, reusable bags. It generated lots of comments on their online article. Longer lunch periods, wiser technology. 87 people like this. I suspect these are the 87 people that tried to get phone support, right? And then there's this kid who thought the 7:15 start time was way too early for high school kids at Silver Creek. It's way too early for adults at Silver Creek. But he asked the superintendent of schools to come into the class and talk about this, right? Superintendent came in and said, here are the reasons why we need a 7:15 start time. Kid changed his mind. So, yeah, really? And a sign of citizenship there, right? Having an open mind, being able to listen to lots of different points of views. Bottom line, you can't measure this stuff with a standardized test. You can only measure it by the vitality and success of our democracy. The score on that account gets measured every day. Looking at these primary sources created by and about these students, it seems our democracy is in capable hands. But more importantly, 20 years in the future, these kids will be adults who will look at their own kids and say, yes, yes, you can fight City Hall and win. I have evidence to prove it. So what do you say? Do we prove my point? Right? The primary sources support my claim. Is there evidence of students being able to handle the job of citizen? Let me give you 2 more pieces of evidence. This is my daughter. My daughter kind of had a hard time finding herself. And then one day for her CAP project, her Citizen Action Project, she decided to try and get rid of kids using the R word in middle schools. The next year, she became an aide in a self-contained special ed class. And then we were planning this big one-day local government simulation. She came up to me and said, hey, Dad, how come the kids in the self-contained special ed class aren't invited? And I went, you're right, Mihaela, they should be. And we invited them, and then we found out that everyone in a democracy ought to have a voice. And just as important, she's now a freshman at UCCS, engaged in a program for inclusive early childhood education, and on the dean's list. Okay? You can only measure that in like tears of pride and joy. Okay? One more quick story. So as I said, this candidate forum was 4 or 5 years ago. And Carl here on the left waited and waited and waited to talk to the mayor here on the right. The mayor, to his credit, did the same thing. Waited around for Carl, right? And answered all of these questions. And so about just last spring, I was in Walmart and I ran into Carl, right? Hey, Carl, how you doing? Hey, Mr. Willmann, how are you? I'm doing fine. Carl says, hey, remember that time I got a chance to talk to the mayor? Yeah, Carl, I remember. And apparently you do too, right? So giving kids a voice matters. It makes a difference. You know, because citizenship is not a spectator sport, and I encourage you to start with local government. Thank you very much.